folks want to pop off and have opinions about what they think they would do, present a specific plan. If they think that somehow their advisors are better than the chairman of my Joint Chiefs of Staff and the folks who are actually on the ground, I want to meet them. So to the extent that it's been shaded, again, I don't know the details of what's the IG may discover, but it feels to me like, at my level at least, we've had a pretty clear-eyed, sober assessment of where we've made real progress and where we have not.
Well, the White House says today the president's not afraid of getting bad news, but it may be bad news as the Defense Department expands an investigation into possibly cooking the books on intel about the situation with ISIS. This comes as breaking news at the top of the show. The State Department releases a worldwide warning for U.S. citizens. State Department alerts U.S. citizens to possible risks of travel due to increased terrorist threats. Current information suggests that ISIL, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and other terrorist groups continue to plan terrorist attacks in multiple regions. Now, this also comes as new Fox polls show how people are feeling out there. The Obama administration on ISIS, this is not the one we're looking for. We're looking for poll number 5. The Obama administration on ISIS, not aggressive enough now. And this is the most important issue facing the country. You know what? I'm going to bring in the panel because that's where we're looking at. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. Robert Costet, national political reporter for the Washington Post. And Juan Williams, columnist with The Hill. Barring my poll calling there. Steve, what about this investigation into, and how serious is this, in what we have seen before? Fox first reported this story a ways back.
Correct. Yeah, we've been sort of all over this for a long time. Look, there are 3 different investigations or discussions of investigation. There's the ongoing Pentagon Inspector General investigation, which is looking, as far as we can tell, at manipulation of intelligence related to ISIS, based at CENTCOM. There is some discussion. I talked to some people today who believe that that Pentagon Inspector General investigation is expanding to include the manipulation of intelligence on Afghanistan as well. What the president was talking about was a second investigation, another investigation that he wants to look at the manipulation of intelligence or potential manipulation of intelligence. I would submit that that won't be a very serious investigation because I think that the manipulation of intelligence has been happening at the behest of the White House and potentially at the direction of the White House. There's a third investigation that Devin Nunes, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, has been basically conducting now for several years. He was one of the first members of Congress to be looking seriously at allegations of manipulating intelligence on the Osama bin Laden documents. They've made some headway on that. I think Nunes properly sees that as part of this latest investigation. So the ISIS scandal investigation that we're talking about now is really a symptom of a deeper problem. And you've had senior U.S. officials on the record, Mike Flynn, former head of the DIA, Derek Harvey, who ran CENTCOM's Afghanistan-Pakistan unit, senior U.S. officials say on the record that this intelligence manipulation was happening. It's quite serious.
Nunes was here a week ago tonight. I asked him about this investigation and the disconnect between the administration and intel on ISIS.
I think at a minimum, it seems like the White House is surrounding themselves with a bunch of yes men. Because when members of my committee, on the Intelligence Committee, we go out and visit these countries or meet with analysts, we always get a different picture that is painted for us than what we see in final product that's produced or in what the president and his advisors are saying on national television.
The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Robert.
Nunes is an important figure to watch because he's close to Speaker Ryan, and he's having the endorsement and the support of the Speaker to pursue this. And you see a lot of House Republicans and Senate Republicans taking Nunes' line. There's a lot of concern about what the president is hearing from his advisors. I was just in Iowa over the weekend and saw 7 presidential candidates. When especially I heard Senator Rubio and Senator Cruz and others speak out, they're talking about the kind of information the president is getting. So not only is this a rising issue on Capitol Hill, but it's a big issue on the campaign trail.
You know, Steve mentioned Mike Flynn, Lieutenant General Flynn. I talked to him months ago about the disconnect with the administration and intel. Take a look at this. But your conclusions, your assumptions, were not tracking with what was coming out publicly with the Obama administration.
They were no longer assumptions. They were facts. You could not look at the facts as they were with the size, scale, numbers of organizations, the network that we saw, the thickening of lines between different groups in Pakistan, groups in Yemen, groups in East Africa, groups in the Maghreb, the Mali area. They were factually, we knew that those lines were thicker and those organizations were more robust. What I know the intelligence said was not necessarily what we hear.
It was diametrically opposed, wasn't it?
I would say, from my perspective, it was just the opposite.
Former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, Juan.
Well, this is just a scandalous kind of development, because you have to have good intelligence, I don't care which political party you belong to, in order to conduct a successful, effective strategy and military operation. Without information in the age we live in, you are running blind, and it's ineffective. And we've seen this before. We've seen it obviously with the weapons of mass destruction argument back in the Bush administration, when you had obviously people talking about, CIA people talking about it's going to be a slam dunk with regard to weapons of mass destruction, or the Defense Department, the Pentagon, saying, oh, we know the way around Tikrit and all the rest, and they didn't. They didn't know where things were. That tells you how serious this is. I don't care about the politics of it. It does open the question, though, exactly whether or not this is being engineered by the Obama administration, specifically pressure coming from the president and his top aides in the National Security Council. That would be Susan Rice. So Steve says, oh, you think it does have some connect to the White House specifically. I don't see that we've jumped that bridge yet. But I do think that what we're dealing with here is the question about intelligence gathering that has dogged the United States now for a decade.
Which is problematic. I'm going to try these polls again. Number 9, Obama's plan for U.S. to accept 10,000 plus Syrian refugees over the next year. Favor is at 28%. Oppose is at 27%. It sounds really good. It's better if you can see it. Fox 10, the poll, likelihood of at least one Syrian refugee who comes to the U.S. to carry out an attack. There you go. And there you see the breakdown by party. There's concern here, Steve, about the refugee issue, and it seems the White House is disconnected on that issue as well. Well,
the White House would rather have a different argument. I think the White House now would rather have an argument about gun control. But I think what you're seeing reflected in these poll numbers is the American public, in a sense, catching up to where a lot of senior intelligence officials have been. And to go back to Juan's point, I mean, I think there's been a pattern from this White House. I think you're right. We need to wait and find out exactly what the White House was saying, if the White House was in fact ordering the manipulation of intelligence or putting pressure. We need to find that out. But there is also a distinct pattern from the White House of downplaying this threat that stretches back to the days even before President Obama was elected. And if you look at things like the response to the Christmas Day attempted bombing attack, when the president calls Umar Farouk Abdul-Muttalib an isolated extremist, despite the fact that the FBI has already learned that he was sent by al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, you can go forward and you can plot a number of these responses from the White House that suggest the president just wasn't interested in the facts.